Welcome to episode number 29 of the Between Two Brands podcast. I'm your host, Bill Petrie, and I'm glad you're here with me because I think we've got a really great episode today. But I probably would say that any episode because I want you to listen or watch or both. But hey, before we get to that, let's go ahead and thank our sponsor for today. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Distributor, what if I told you there was a supplier in the promotional products industry that straight up creates magic with branded merchandise? Okay, that probably sounds like marketing fluff and jargon and all that, but stick with me for a minute. What if I also told you that this supplier is a fifth generation family owned and operated company that's been doing their thing for almost a century? Now, that might make you glance up from your phone, right? Would certainly make me. Now, what if I told you that over 99% of their products are made right here in the USA using North American sourced raw materials? Exactly. Now you're paying full attention. That supplier in question, that's our good friends over at Warwick Publishing with over 25,000 SKUs, including folders, calendars, signage, cards, and some seriously stunning packaging. Warwick helps you turn branded merchandise into a full-on retail-worthy experience that your clients will absolutely love. It's really more than just a product. It's presentation, it's impact, it's an extra layer of awesome that your clients are looking for. So, if you're ready to level up what you offer your clients, your prospects, head over to warwickpublishing.com and take a look. Trust me, you will not be sorry you did. It is, as I'm recording this, what's the date today? July 30th, 2025. And I feel like for the first time in I don't know, a month. I'm here on a Wednesday is when I usually record the podcast, and it feels amazing to be at home, even though I spent time in Cabo San Lucas, Chicago for the ASI show. It just feels great to be at home. And as I was wondering, what do I want to talk about today? One of the things, one of the persistent topics over the last 3, 4 weeks as I've been running around the country and the world has been AI. I'm no expert by any stretch of the imagination, but people know that I'm familiar with AI. There's certain things I use AI in terms of leveraging those tools to help me. This podcast being one of them. The editing software I use is very much AI generated. So I found a study by Civic Science, and the title of this is Consumers Are Becoming Increasingly Negative Toward the Use of AI in Marketing. And I thought, okay, this is interesting. And so let me give you a couple statistics. So the sentiment around AI, 75% of the people who are surveyed are at least somewhat concerned about the proliferation of AI tools. And 80% are at least somewhat concerned about AI replacing American workers. Then, when it got to the use of AI in marketing, this was the stat that really stuck out at me. 52% of US adults say they are less likely to purchase from a brand that uses AI in marketing and advertising. That stuck out at me because I was having a conversation with Josh Robbins, who people know is my good friend over at Vault Promotions, also my business partner in Promocations. And he was saying that when he sees AI being used in marketing, unless it is specifically called out, unless it's somewhat of a joke type of post, it immediately loses credibility for him. And I thought that's interesting. I don't think I've heard that. And then I ran across this survey, and it absolutely underscored and validated his opinion. So I thought I'd share my thoughts on AI because I do think we're kind of at, the pendulum swings forward and back, and it's swinging, I think, now in the inevitable backlash. AI is an incredibly powerful tool, and that's the word. Like I said, it's a great time saver for me. I use ChatGPT not to write blogs, not to do my work for me, but as a tool for brainstorming. So it's behind the scenes. It's something I use that helps spur my whatever level of creativity I have. It helps spur that for things I do for Brandivate, things I do for Promocations, and things I do on behalf of my clients. I use Grammarly. which is an incredibly powerful AI tool. I write blogs for some of my clients, but I put it through Grammarly because there are things, as well as I like to think I write, as well intentioned as I am with grammar and English, I'm not always perfect. There are certain words I always spell incorrectly. There's certain places I never use a comma where I should use a comma and things like that. And Grammarly does a really nice job of tightening up what I write. I use Canva in Adobe Illustrator for a lot of the graphics I use. And there's some incredible AI tools that help you remove backgrounds, help you create shadow effects, things like that. And then I use AI for social media optimization. When is the right time to post things so it gets the most eyeballs? Those tools are incredible. I think the backlash is what we're seeing is when people lean too heavily on it. I can tell just about instantly when someone is using Chat GPT to write social media posts, write blogs. And it is a negative for me when I see that. I think, to me, there's a tipping point, and I'm not exactly sure where that line is. There's a tipping point between I am using AI as a time saver. I'm using AI as to create more efficiencies for me so I can be more productive. And then there's a line where it's I'm using AI because I'm lazy, because I don't want to work, and this is just easier for me to do. And it's very easy with many of the posts to see that line. The backlash against that we all could predict it. And here it is, and it's trending upward, and I do believe that. Again, my conversation with Josh, and then the survey really underscored that. What also has been underscored is we're still humans. We still crave connectivity. And AI sometimes feels like it creates a little bit of a chasm. But what we all really want though is authenticity. Um, I like to think I am who I am. And I'm the same person, whether I'm on this podcast, whether I'm at a bar, whether I'm at a football game, whether I'm one-on-one with a friend, or I'm at a dinner with a large group. I'm the same person. Is it slightly different versions of me? Of course. We're all chameleons. We might be different with our best friend somewhat than we would be with a stranger, but if you still have that authenticity. I am still, for example, I like Van Halen. I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm not going to ignore the fact that that's my favorite band. And whether I know you or not, it's part of who I am. And that goes a lot deeper, obviously. And like I said, it's easy to spot those AI images, those AI writing things. And I think that's the backlash. It feels like we're separating ourselves from human connection. And that to me is the biggest concern. The pendulum will swing back and forth. AI tools will get better. And at some point, it probably will be more difficult for us to see what is AI and what is not. But like I said, it is such a perfect thing for behind the scenes and automation. It has absolutely helped me be more efficient in my business, and it's helped me be better for my clients. But I don't lean on it to the point where it's doing the work for me. I don't feel comfortable with that, and I don't know if I ever will. And I'm okay with that. Um, so that's kind of my preamble. And I'd love to hear from you guys. Not only how is AI helping you with your business, but are you starting to see some downsides of other people using it or maybe using it yourself? Because I've been tempted. I'm not going to lie. I have been tempted to say, I don't know if I want to write a blog this week because I post a blog every Monday. And it's tempting to throw it into Chat GPT and give it a few parameters and have it write for me. And I've done that. I've never posted it because I don't like it. And I've said, I need you to write a blog in the voice of me. Here are some things I'd like to talk about. Highlight this, highlight that. And I put it in there and it's good. It's not great. Not that everything I write is great. It's good, but it lacks a human element. And it's very easy to see the patterns, the AI patterns. And again, it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel authentic. It's not me. I can't do it. So I'd love to hear from you. Where is your line for using AI? And how are you leveraging it to help you in your business while remaining authentic? And I think that's the key. Hey, do you know what season it is? That's right, it is business valuation season here in the branded merchandise industry. Perhaps you don't know what your company's worth. Maybe it's time, maybe it's been more than a few years since your last valuation, and you need a new benchmark to see if your company is actually increasing in value. Heck, you might even be kind of exploring selling your company, want to know what it's worth. Regardless of the reason, Jamie Watson and the experts over at Certified Marketing Consultants have extensive experience in the world of branded merchandise and the financial knowledge necessary to provide a fact-based valuation of your business. All you need to do is email them at info@certifiedmarketing.com for a confidential discussion today. Okay, let's go ahead and get to my guest today. My only guest today, usually I say first guest, but I only always have one guest, so it's kind of being the redundant man of redundancy. But my guest today needs no introduction. But you know what? Feel like wasting your time, her time, maybe even a little bit of my time. She is the Senior Vice President at ASI, overseeing the editorial, special events, and education teams, and ASI's global alliances. Pretty much, other than Tim, she's running the show. Just
Oh,
between
God help
us.
us all if that's the case,
Oh,
Chief.
oh my gosh. With more than 35 years of journalism experience, she's been with ASI for 28 years and is the recipient of multiple Neal Awards, which is really the Pulitzer Prize of business journalism. Pretty impressive stuff there. She also covers the overseas promo markets extensively, attending shows and events around the world. She's also the queen of snark in the industry. Please join me in welcoming the one, the only, the lovely and talented Michele Bell. Michele,
You
thank
know,
you for
that
slumming it
title
up.
I'll take. I'll take the Queen of Snark any day.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you for joining me. It's
Thank you for
been
having me.
something we've talked about for months, but knowing you were maybe a little bit busy, I'm sure we'll talk about that. We waited till after ASI Chicago. So thank you again for doing this.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here as I look at all of your awesome album covers behind you. Love it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Music is my therapy, as is uh, snark. So there's that. All right. So you have a couple things you want to talk about hot off of ASI Chicago. And then I've got five very simple, very easy questions. Shouldn't take you a few minutes to answer. Who could possibly say? So
You
what would you
know,
like to talk about
and I
first?
got to say, you were so lovely to make me the offer of, do I want to see the questions ahead of time? And you and I have known each other for quite a long time now that I
Yep.
said no, because I'm full faith and confidence in you. And if I can't handle any of those five questions, I should not be in this job, honestly. So let's
Well,
let it roll.
I try to tailor the questions. I want to make the guest the star, but I also want to make me look a little buffoonish at times. So the buffoon part's super easy. Honestly, that is super easy. And also elevating my guest, super easy. It's super easy. It's all super easy.
Well, when you nicely asked me to be on the podcast and especially the timing, I thought what would be interesting to your audience. And, our
Sure.
state of the industry issue has just come out. It comes
Yep.
out in conjunction with the Chicago show. So really, Bill, what I did, I just kind of cherry picked. I'm not gonna put your audience to sleep with a lot of data heavy information, but I just kind of cherry picked some interesting things that I thought were fascinating from year to year. So just a
Okay.
couple things. Um, Concern, even though in Q2 industry sales writ large went down 3.2%, concern about tariffs is decreasing. Now, have things gotten measurably better with tariffs? I don't know if I'm ready to say that, but I think the industry has settled into a comfort level with it. So the concern is lessening. Do you see that as well? Do
Yeah,
you hear that as well?
I, I think that makes sense. What I do in 3.2, you said that's less of a drop than I thought there would be,
Me
quite
too.
frankly.
Me too.
I think when it comes to tariffs, in whether you're pro-tariff, anti-tariff, pro-administration, anti-administration, all we want is mother bleeping certainty. And what nobody likes the uncertainty and the roller coaster. Even people who are super thinking the tariffs are a great idea, they're like, man, I'm getting whiplash every time I turn around. I mean,
Yeah.
we thought we had an agreement with China. Now it comes out, well, not real progress has been made, so I'm sure there's going to be another whiplash. Now, it'll all stabilize at some point. At least I gotta believe so. But I think that's why we're seeing a little bit of a, okay, look, if it's 15%, if it's 30%, hell,
Yeah.
if it's 100%, we can live with it. It's kind of what my mom and dad used to say. Um, just tell me the truth. We can handle the truth.
That's
Can't
that's
handle
exactly right.
non-truth.
Look, if you were to ask me, Bill, my sense from talking to people in the industry, which is really, I mean, you were so nice in your intro of me. What I do all day, honestly, is talk to people in the industry. I talk to everybody in the industry. Anybody who calls me, I talk to. So my sense from what I'm hearing for Q3 is that I think the industry will be doing better in Q3. Q2 is where they took the hit, right? Because that's where you saw the impact of the tariffs. So one of the other, what we decided to do in light of the tariffs, poor Nate Kuzma, who is ASI's senior executive director of data, that poor guy, same with COVID. Because of the situation we're in, I started having him do data like every 2 weeks in the
Oh,
market. So he'd see my number come up on his phone and like the eye would start to twitch. Like, what does she want now?
sure.
So
I'm
we have
sure.
we have real-time data. So it's interesting. So since April, 7 in 10 suppliers have raised their prices because of course they have. Accordingly, they've had to adjust to these
You
market
have to.
conditions.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that in 2024 distributor profit margins were at an all-time high, 37.8. 37.8, the
Really?
highest since 2019. So again, that's a 2024 number, but the industry
Sure.
went into the year on pretty solid ground.
Right.
When I looked at the pie chart of products, drinkware has finally, this is the 2024 is the year it started to tick down. Categories though that saw an increase: outerwear,
Okay.
writing instruments, and
Really?
electronics. Yep,
That's interesting.
yep.
That's real interesting.
Um,
Electronics doesn't surprise me as
yeah,
much. Writing instruments does, but then when I think about it, that's generally speaking, a more cost-effective piece of branded merchandise. And here's the thing: people still got to eat, people still got to promote their businesses,
they
and they
do.
may not buy the higher end things because of price increases, but they
Yes,
will find something that they feel is suitable to the message they're trying to broadcast, and that might be a writing instrument, or that's interesting.
absolutely. Absolutely. Two data points of note that really caught my attention. 46% of distributors, that's across categories. So in totality,
Right.
46% are now doing company stores for their clients. That is up from 31% in 2017. So, you and I think both of us would come to the same conclusion. I think it's because it's a cost-effective way to get more business. And there's a
Absolutely.
preponderance of supply of providers of company stores. So it really has become kind of a profit center for distributors.
I think the other point of that and why it's so high, and that's a great number. It's fascinating, actually. I think another reason is we now have the technology and infrastructure for print on demand, so you don't have to hold
Absolutely.
inventory. You can have basically most of these company stores are virtual. Few have a giant warehouse. Now, yes, there are some, but company stores a lot of times we think company stores are like, well, Heineken has a giant company store and MTV and all these. Sure. And they're going to have stuff sitting on a shelf that's pre-printed, ready to roll. But most of this is print on demand, which
Absolutely.
allows such a level of service that we as an industry couldn't even provide 5 years ago. So
It's
I
so
think
true.
that plays a big role in it.
I mean, it's increasing the efficiency so quickly. That number caught my attention. The other one is 62% of distributors are sourcing from overseas. That is distributors sourcing from overseas. That's up from 47% just in 2024. So, I mean, that is a huge
That's a
jump.
big number.
Yeah.
Are those distributors doing it themselves directly or using someone like maybe a third party importer
Yeah.
that's familiar with the industry or
Yeah.
like a large supplier? That's what they're that okay.
That breaks down the line of demarcation. There is the distributors who do less than 5 million are using help. The large guys
Okay.
have offices overseas. That's
That
the
makes
breakdown there.
sense.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense
Yeah.
because like your Halos of the world, I know they'll have an office in Shenzhen and all that and have,
Yep.
people who under because if you do it by yourself as a smaller guy, boy, good luck because navigating that weird canal of trying to get things overseas, making sure everything's compliant, making sure you understand customs, and making sure it gets somewhere on time. Boy, that is a recipe for heavy
It's
drinking.
fraught with pitfalls. Okay, I'm going to make you
Yeah.
guess the stat now. You ready?
Okay. Guess a
Okay.
stat.
Overall, the
Yeah.
percentage of distributors using AI in their
Hmm.
daily business.
63%. No, no, 76%.
Huh. Ever the optimist, my friend. 25. 25.
What?
Yeah. Now,
What?
now the numbers kind of when you slice and dice the numbers, let's look at the biggest distributors, those over,
Yeah.
15 million. Then it jumps up to 50. But yeah,
Okay.
much less than you would think.
Interesting. I actually, my little preamble, which you didn't hear, but I talked about a study I found where consumers are really pushing back on AI in marketing. And
Why is
that,
that?
that
Does it unsettle
I
them?
think I think it's just I think it's unsettling and it just feels inauthentic. And we are still humans. We crave authenticity. And I've been very public with my use of AI. I use it all the time, but I use it back end for efficiency and optimization. I use it for brainstorming. I
Hmm.
understand what people are seeing. When I see blogs, and you can, if you know what to look for, you can see things that are written by AI. It is not difficult
Yeah,
at all.
of course.
And I think that's what people are not liking. It's like it's less of a connection. Is it might be good, but is it real?
Yeah.
And good doesn't mean good anymore, if that makes sense.
Look,
Um,
we use it here at ASI for a myriad of things,
mhm.
coding and efficiencies.
Oh,
I will not let the editorial team use AI to craft articles because you can absolutely see a difference. And AI
mhm.
doesn't know context. It doesn't know
No,
nuance. It can't capture someone's personality when you're writing a profile
no.
about them. So that's my
Yeah.
hard line, old school journalism.
Well,
No AI for the articles.
but I think that's good. Yeah, I've been tempted. I shared this earlier. I've been tempted. I write a blog every week. Sometimes I am uninspired. A lot of people would argue I'm always uninspired. But let's just say I'm not inspired. I've been tempted, like write this in the style of me because I've spent time with ChatGPT so it understands my tone, my voice, and does for every one of my clients. And I use it for brainstorming.
It
That's it.
understands your tone. That's a tough.
Well, I've tried to have it.
We actually, I'm so sorry. Can we pause? The fire alarm is going off here.
Absolutely. So, in the topsy-turvy world of podcasting, sometimes things go wrong and sometimes fire drills happen. Today we had the latter. Michelle ran out for a minute. She's going to be back as soon as everybody is safe and accounted for. And I can assure you it was a fire drill, not a real fire. We'll continue the podcast. Thanks for hanging in there. Hey, so that fire drill is now over. But let's get back to the AI drill. So, what I was saying, Michelle, before we were so rudely interrupted by the township, is that I do sit with, I did, every time I onboard a client, I actually spend about an hour and create a specific chat GPT for them so that when I'm brainstorming with them, let's say it's for Warwick, who happens to sponsor this particular episode, the ideas it helps me bounce off of, it is consistent with what they want as a client. So that's what I use it for. When it comes to me, and I did recently, I put a blog, write it in the style of me, and it was garbage. It was like a low rent version of me. And trust me, I'm low rent enough. So
Well,
there
you
are
have a very
uses of,
specific personality, Bill, and a very specific voice. And of course, AI can't mimic that, So I
not
think
yet.
we all have to be judicious for those of us who put up, content out for public consumption.
I agree. And again, it's that appeal of being lazy. And I said in the earlier part of the podcast, there's a fine line of this is helping me be more efficient. This is helping me be more creative because I have someone or something to brainstorm off of. And then there's a line of I'm being lazy and having somebody do the work for me. And yeah, it's a lesser version of me, but it's close enough. And I just don't feel comfortable with that. And I know you don't either.
Sure, sure.
What else did you want to bring up? I think there was one other thing you wanted to bring up before I launched into five easy questions, right?
Yes, yes, yes. I was thinking about it when I was thinking about being on your show. And I'm reminded after 28 years of being in the industry and at ASI, people in the industry are so wonderful about feeling, free and easy to give ASI, their thoughts on our business and how to run our business, and
Oh,
and
I'm sure.
it's all welcome, and I love hearing all of it. But I thought, I'm going to be on Bill's show. I'm going to return the favor for the industry.
Okay.
So I got two
Okay.
things for an industry that purports itself to be experts at promotion. I got to tell you, sitting in my seat as the head of the editorial team at ASI, not so great. ASI has 25,000 members, distributors,
Mhm.
suppliers, decorators. If I were to ask you, my dear friend, how many press releases or any version thereof, so it doesn't have to be an official release, but a
Right.
notice, hey, we hired somebody, we brought in a new product line, blah, blah. How
Right.
many does my team get in a week from a promotions industry?
Are these excluding the ones I send your team all the time from my clients because I make sure we're
Yes.
doing it?
Yes.
I'd say less than 2%.
Yeah.
You asked her a number. I would say less than 3 or 4 a week tops.
We get about 20 a week. We get about
Oh,
20 a week.
okay. Well, then I stink. I shit all over your point.
Well, my point though is when you look at the numbers, and again,
It's
this
ridiculous.
industry is about promotion. And I'm
Yeah,
always reminded there's so many creative people that you and I both know in this industry. And
absolutely.
then I think about self promotion campaigns because I am a
Hmm.
huge fan of. I mean, you showed me that wonderful thing that you did for your promocations people where you
Yeah.
curated a whole box for them and the packaging
Oh,
was
yeah.
decorated. Do you know how few of those we get? Thank God for the food people, by the way. Thank God for Maple Ridge Farms and Chocolate Inn or NC Custom because
Absolutely.
the food people are the best at doing self promotion on the supplier side. But it never ceases to amaze me. You know, here we sit, one of the largest editorial teams in the industry.
Right.
If people send us self promotion campaigns, the chances that I would have my team cover that publicly are pretty high. And yet it's just not done. And it's fascinating
It's
to me
crazy.
that people are not as good at promoting themselves in this industry as they you would think that they would be, honestly.
You are preaching to the converted. I absolutely, you're correct. And I tell my clients all the time, especially ones that I'm working with for promoting themselves, is you need to look at your business life through the lens of everything is potential content. For example, I use Warwick. One of the things that I started working with Warwick on was, one thing people want to see, especially distributors, and distributors are your clients. They want they're fascinated with the production. I want to see how things are produced because you have a product that people think might be boring, but it's not. Might be the most magical product in the industry because it's blank paper. You can do anything with it.
Yes,
And once I told them that, and not that it was like the most original thought, but I could see the ideas go off. And since then, they've done such a fantastic job in showing people behind the scenes because that's what there is still some magic and some mystery in what we do. We just need to share it.
absolutely. Absolutely. And the second thing I would say is
Yeah.
again, and I love Bill that people feel close enough to me that they will call me. And by the way, let me preface this: it's always the men. Women have better things to do with their time, and women are much more common. It's always the men. I get calls at nights, on weekends, Sunday nights at 10 o'clock. People on different
Hmm.
coasts, and that's fine. Carrying on like crazy people. You need to cover this. You need to have your team write about this. And I got to tell you, some of the topics are legit. They absolutely, and
Hmm.
it's, that's where I learn a lot about, oh, okay, that's really an issue impacting.
Right.
So I will then come into the office and kind of gather my team and say, hey, somebody called me at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night, which is fine,
Sure.
to tell me that this is an issue. Let's cover it. And this is the person. And my team will reach out to that person, again, invariably a
Hmm.
man, because women never call like crazy people. And
Right.
they'll say, hey, Michelle told us about this issue.
Mhm.
Can you give us some feedback? Well, I can't go on the
Didn't hear
record.
from me. Yeah,
Didn't
didn't
hear
hear
it from
from
me.
me.
So here's my PSA, folks. If you're going to call the head of editorial on a weekend or at night, take your balls out of your purse and go on the record.
I
Thanks
don't
for my
know
TED
if
talk.
I.
Thanks for coming to
Yeah,
my TED talk.
yeah, I'm not adding to that. Other than I know you're right because I get a lot of, hey, I'd love you to talk about this on the podcast, but don't bring up my name. In general, I'm like, well, no, because I'm not going to take the bullet for you. I'm not going to have the arrows slung at me because I've done that enough. That's why, I've kind of stopped going to as you and I would say, the Fakakta promotional products professionals page and shining a harsh light on some of that because I don't feel great about calling people out by name. And
Sure,
so it's like, what
sure,
am I doing here? But I
sure.
totally get that. Yeah. So folks, you're going to call Michele Bell. First of all, check the time. She lives on the East Coast. Do the math. Don't call after hours. Don't call on the weekends
Look, I'm
unless,
I'm I'm happy,
yeah,
Bill. Like people, I've been around long enough that people feel comfortable calling me, and that's fine. But they
absolutely.
get so worked up about topics, and some of them are valid topics. If you're going to be that worked up, have
Well,
the cojones to say, you know what, I'm
yeah,
going to put my name, my company,
absolutely.
everything behind it, because it grounds it with more credibility. From a
There,
journalistic standpoint, it gives it more credibility.
100%. There's a great book by Roy Spence called "It's Not What You Sell, It's What You Stand For," and I fervently believe in that. And I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I have an opinion on things, and I'll share it, when it makes sense. So I totally agree. And plus, if you are going to call Michelle, make sure you're not looking to grind your axe. Make sure it's actually something newsworthy. Okay. Okay. All right. Are you ready for five very simple, very straightforward, super easy
Bring
questions?
it on.
I I have them listed right here. Doesn't
Oh
that
my
make you
gosh.
nervous?
Nope.
There's actual preparation. No AI involved. You have been in the promotional products industry for 28 years, but you look at this industry through the lens of a journalist. How has reporting the news of the industry changed for you and your team since you started? And to be clear, I'm not talking about things you may or may not have seen at eye candy.
Well, I'm proud to say I don't spend much time in eye candy, that's for sure. Um, it's like a cesspool of silliness, really. I mean, that
It
place.
really
You know.
is. Yeah.
So I would say it's a really interesting question. So when I juxtapose when I first got into the industry till now, so many more private equity players who are not so forthcoming and willing to share how the sausage is made. You know, when you get a
Hmm.
privately owned company, that the world of difference between getting a CJ Schmidt on the phone who owns Hit and
Hmm.
knows everything about that business and has the wherewithal to say, yes, I will talk about this, and
Right.
a company that's owned by some private equity that may or may not be in the US, they don't give up any information, which is not terribly helpful to the industry. You know what I mean? As far as
No.
trends and what's being impacted and the implications. So the influx, I would say, the heavy influx of private equity has really changed how we gather and report information. Um, I would say in this particular time, Bill, I'm seeing, I don't know if you're noticing it too, a huge turnover. It's kind of remarkable of leadership of many companies. And from an
It's
editorial standpoint, the
yeah.
news cycle, to say nothing of um, our current president runs a very fast news cycle, and that's fine.
Right.
But reporters have to keep up to speed with that. So we've got
Right.
that. But the news cycle of this industry in particular recently, who's leaving companies, who's joining companies, I can't remember a time in recent history when it's been this robust.
Yeah, I can't either. I used to remark on a former podcast I did with a former partner, a former Kirby Hasseman. We would joke that, okay, it's October 1st, the silly season has started. And that's what I used to refer to as everybody wants to make their moves, make their big announcements leading up to ASI Orlando and PPAI Expo. Just in the past few months, the people who have left companies, and I'll name a couple names, the ones that shocked me, the Kenny Veds of the world, a good friend of both you and mine, Mark Gammon, who is one of the nicest humans on the planet. It's like
So
I've
nice.
never seen a time where there's so much turbulence.
Yep.
It makes me really glad that I rely on me. And
Yep.
I'm not working for so honestly, that is my big takeaway. And I love what you said too about the private equity. That's the part we don't think about. We all, as an industry, we lament the involvement of private equity, but there's positives to it too, in terms of the
Sure.
influx of cash and investment and things like that. The downsides, obviously, are it's a bottom line business and
Yep.
relationships aren't what they used to be. I never thought about it the way you just shared, but it's absolutely true. It's not the fraternity and sorority that we all grew up in this industry with. It's not that family atmosphere. It's very much, it's gotten colder. It's gotten
For
colder.
sure. For sure. And some of those companies, they'll say to me when we are in collection mode for the counselor top 40 numbers, they'll say,
Right.
well, of course we're not reporting our numbers because we're private equity and we want to come off your list. And I go, it's not an opt in or opt out. You're on the list. The
Right.
toothpaste is out of the tube at this point. So
Right.
you're either giving me your numbers or I'm holding you flat. So,
Yeah.
pick
I,
one.
I get it. I get it because when I'm in collection mode and I'd like to be paid, they say we don't pay people in 30 days. We're private equity. I'm just kidding. Okay. All right. Question number dose. You are very public about your stance on social media, which I think you just call it's more harm than good, social media as a
Oh
general
my
rule.
God, you're so diplomatic. Like
Yeah.
that's the least of what I say.
Well, I'm being nice. You used to be on Twitter or X, but now we're off that. You've never been on Facebook or,
No.
as the kids would call it, the gram. And your only social media is your LinkedIn profile.
Hmm.
I have three questions. Let's go one by one. I'm not going to rattle off three and then have you go. Well, what was the first one? That's a
I'll
rookie
remember.
move. But kids, this is what professional podcasting looks and sounds like right here. How has that lack of participation on popular social media platforms hampered your ability to do the job you way you want to do it?
There are times here, and I should say that my team is much more involved in social media than I am. So there are times when they will see something, perhaps somebody's left a company because now
Mhm.
people put out their own news on social media, which is great. So they may see something if it's not on LinkedIn that before I do, and that's fine because we've got it covered. It's the personal stuff like Jill Albers, who's one of my best friends.
Yeah,
She'll say, "Did you see so and
yeah,
so in the industry had a baby?" And I won't see it because I'm not on Facebook. So it's
right.
those kinds of things that I miss. However, I am willing to make that trade off because I find it to be. I often say, thank God you and I are about the same age from the same. We're both Gen
Yep.
Xers. I can't
Proud
imagine being a
Gen
young
Xers.
person now on social
Yeah,
media because I find it soul distorting and soul crushing
yeah.
what it does to young people. And I find it to be an infestation of noise and distraction.
Could you be a little more clear on that because it's a very fuzzy take you have. No, I agree with you. One of the things I joke about is I'm on social media. I don't spend a lot of time on it, but I'm on it, and I always say I'm like a 6'9" Sri Lankan that knows how to dunk a basketball, but I don't like the sport. And so I totally get it. I really do. How has your mental health been positively impacted by avoiding the cesspool of Facebook and the promotional products professionals group?
Well, honestly, some of the chat rooms in the industry, I
Hmm.
think my team here at ASI has a pro and con. Sometimes they wish I was on it because Bill, with my finger, like I would be in that thing and just stirring up the pot. Go, what are you talking about? You
Oh,
dipshit. You know me. I
I
would.
I
So it's
love
better
doing that.
I'm not on it, honestly,
Yeah,
but they will tell me things that they see. And,
yeah,
one of the times I would say in all candor, seriously, that it was I really did consider wading into one of the chat rooms was when Chris Ruvo was doing a lot of reporting about tariffs, not pro
yeah,
or con, just here's what's happening and here's how it's going to impact the industry. And the way that he got beat up on some of the chat
yeah.
rooms was beyond the pale to me and was
I,
untenable.
I remember because I chimed in and defended him, and so I don't go a lot in that group, but when there's something really dumb, I will absolutely call somebody out. And it's part of the
Thank you.
I love being a service provider because it gives me the opportunity to piss off both sides of the industry. And when something's wrong, like, because I remember because it was him and John Corrigan, who's now over at
Yeah,
PPAI, and someone was
fantastic.
attacking both of them at the same time. And like, you have no idea what you're talking about. So, and that's not to pump me up, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
The slings and arrows from keyboard warriors is so bad, and looking at it from 40, 50-year-old human beings, not someone who's 15,
yeah,
18, 19, who doesn't maybe have the experience to really understand how to handle that or take that
yeah.
stuff. So I love
So
that.
the Philly girl in me wants to jump in and
Yeah.
just let loose, but I know that that would not be a productive use of my or anyone's time. But it's those
No.
times when people will come to me and say, "Hey, just to let you know, somebody on your team's getting like,"
Right.
that's tough for me to see from a sideline.
So my last question, which I think you've kind of answered, is how did you resist the pull of all things Zuckerberg? You just made a decision. I'm not into that.
I think I just realized and I know this people may find this hard to believe because I'm fairly visible at ASI, but I'm an
Yep.
extraordinarily private person. People get enough of me in the industry. I like to keep my personal life personal. So to me, what Facebook is flies in the face of how much I value my privacy. So it
Right.
was never my cup of tea. Twitter, I did like because it was just quick hits in and out.
Yeah.
So I was quite fond of that. When the new owner took over, I noticed the algorithm changed, and I was starting to get things in my feed that I wasn't comfortable with. So
Yeah.
that's why I got off that. But look, I'm perfectly happy on LinkedIn, and it serves its
Yeah.
purpose for me.
It, yeah, yeah, I wish I could get off and get off. That sounded horrible. I wish I could get off social media. I'm not on it very much. People think I'm on it a lot, but I don't. Here's where I draw the line. I see many people I know who derive value in terms of how they feel about themselves, in the things that they do through social media. And I've never done that. So when I'm posting something, a lot of times it's like, I want to remember this moment in a year because I do find Facebook memories cut both ways, but mostly positive when you post positive things. But you also have, not you, the global you have to remember, you're seeing somebody's highlight reel.
Yeah,
Very few people say, I lost my job today, unless they're looking for a job. It's not, what a day.
yeah,
You and I talked before the podcast. I had a hellacious day yesterday and this morning. And you know what? I will talk about it in the manner of my choosing at the time of my choosing, but not today because it's too
sure.
hot, too fresh. And I'm not going to post on social media because, again, what good does that do? And I think more people need to ask themselves, okay, I post this. If it's selfishly for me and other people want to comment for it, by all means do it. But are you trying to stir the pot? Are you trying, there's nothing worse than a post of, oh, what a day. Like, okay, what am I supposed to do with that? We all
Right,
have bad days.
right.
Be specific and complain or don't. Anyway, all right. The 3 weeks leading up to to ASI Chicago are absolutely, I know, exhausting to you. The weeks and months, I should say, leading up to that. Counselor Awards, ASI Top 40, State of the Industry, which we've touched on. Two questions. How do you and your team prepare for that annual gauntlet and describe the sense of relief you feel Wednesday after the Counselor Awards?
So the state of the industry process starts at the end of the previous year when we
Yeah,
start, compiling what we want to ask in the survey because it changes every year depending on market conditions. So we
sure.
put together a fresh survey every year. It goes out to the industry. Nate, our data guy, as I call him, the Dark Lord of the data arts, he presides over
Love
all of
Nate.
that. So
Love
it's a
Nate.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And he never met a spreadsheet he didn't like, Bill. He loves all the data. So, CJ Mitica, who's the editor in chief of
Hmm.
Counselor, does a phenomenal job of kind of gathering all of that and slicing and dicing it. And in conjunction with that, of course, we choose our Counselor Award winners. And that is
Yeah,
not dependent on sales. I could give one flying, who spends what. It is truly who is deserving. The only people in the meeting that chooses the award winners are myself, CJ, Andy Cohen, and Tim Andrews, and that is it.
yeah, I
And
love it.
we read all of the nominations. So I love that because it really does show the best of the industry. So we've got the numbers driven side, we've got the awards, the actual event, which is like hosting honestly the craziest wedding you'd ever want to put together. Who can't
Yeah,
sit next to who used to sleep with
right.
who doesn't like who. I mean, it's a whole thing. It's a
Ah,
whole
referencing eye candy, I see. Anyway, you guys have done such a great job, and I've told you this,
thing. Thank you.
and
Thank
I
you.
told you this going into COVID or through COVID. You and I would talk once a month or whatever, and I'll get to that. I'll get to that. Um, that you guys have done such a great job of elevating what you do,
Oh, thank
and
you.
it's
It's
CJ,
very
it's
lovely.
Nate, it's everybody on your team does such a great job, and PPI has done the same thing. Josh Ellis has
They
done a
have.
fantastic job with his team. So
I am
I feel like
huge
we
fans.
are.
I am huge fans of that team over there.
Me too. And I feel like we are at the absolute zenith right now of great reporting, great in-depth reporting, great statistics. So I love what you guys are doing. And
Thank
I
you.
know leading up to last Wednesday's tough. All right. Fourth and second to last question. I think one might say the penultimate question.
Yes.
All right. That's my word for the day. Hey, as mentioned earlier, you're off of Twitter or X, which is where you and I really first got to know each other through social media. That's where we first
Yes.
started interacting. And it kind of underscores the positive power of social media. Now, back then, I believe you and I were voted the snarkiest people in promo by a committee of two, you and me. Um, uh, what is your current outlet for snark now that you're not on X? Because you're not snarky on LinkedIn.
No, I'm not. Look, I think I idle at snark. I just my baseline is snark. Um, if you're asking me about the industry, I am fascinated as ever, mainly because of what you and I just talked about, the change happening right
Yeah.
now. I feel like
Yeah.
we're all in the middle of a
Crazy.
Dyson, like a Dyson
Hmm.
vacuum cleaner, and it's going like this.
Yeah.
So I am, because I love being a journalist. You know, I'm so curious about how everything plays out. So I'm sitting here watching all of this, utterly fascinated by it. I would say not terribly snarky at the moment. I think because of the high of last week of being in
I
Chicago.
get
And
it.
it's just so, it's really like the end of the school year reunion. You know, if you think of the shows in January, Orlando, PPI, Vegas being the
Hmm.
start of the year, Chicago's really the last big show of the year.
It
And
is.
it's like the end of the school year, you know, and everybody
Yeah.
comes with this great energy. So I wouldn't say so snarky. I would say more kind of like wistful that it was so great to see everybody, and now I miss them.
Yeah.
I miss seeing them.
But now you get 6 months, almost about 5 months to refill your snark tank. So,
It'll fill up
by the
fast,
way,
Bill.
yeah,
It'll
by the
fill
way,
up
that would be a
fast.
great show. Instead of Shark Tank, can we do something called Snark Tank?
Yes, please.
Um,
Don't threaten me
oh,
with a
that'd be
good
great.
time. Do not threaten
You,
me with a good
me,
time.
let's see, you, me, Terry Maguire, and a rotating fourth person can sit in chairs and have people come out and we just judge them. I think that's a hit.
Judging with
Judging. All
my
right.
Philly judging finger.
Final question, Michele Bell. You and I text often about things in the industry and usually have about a once a month catch up call. We talk an hour, hour and a half. Our friendship is a little more recent. I'd say last 8 years or so. And at the same time, you've had some very deep long-term relationships. People like Terry Maguire, Rich Carrillo, the aforementioned Jill Albers, those come to mind. How important have your personal relationships been to helping you achieve success professionally?
So
I'm
at the
asking the
most,
hard questions. I'm asking the questions people are afraid to ask. That's what I promise on this. I'm telling you, I'm not afraid to ask the tough question, kids.
you are not. You're like a less annoying Barbara Walters.
Oh, that's unfortunate. I was hoping to be more annoying.
I would say at the most fundamental level for my role as it relates to being a journalist in this industry, having those relationships gives me, it affords me the opportunity. If they've got a breaking news story,
Yeah,
the chances are those
come to you.
people that I'm friends with, not everybody, but those people will come to me first and say, here's
Yeah,
what's happening, handle it appropriately, please. And they will trust me to do that. They will trust me to keep their confidence. They will trust me that if they have something to tell me and do want to be off the record, that I of course, will adhere to that. So it's that kind of proprietary information that makes its way to me because of my long-standing relationships, for sure. And look, Bill, it's, it's almost 30 years of having deep friendships, going to people's weddings, going to their kids'
yeah,
birthday parties, going to funerals, going, all of that, that it's is what you do when you've got real friendships with people.
yeah. It is. When I try to explain this industry to others, I always say you're not in it, so I really can't explain it. It's going to look very strange from the outside. There is a
Oh yeah.
family atmosphere about it. Coming to ASI Chicago last week, it just underscored that, and being at the Council Awards. I do have a bonus question before we thank our sponsor and say goodbye.
Yes.
Are you disappointed I didn't break out in industry impersonation on this podcast?
What makes you think I wasn't going to ask for one? Don't discount me.
Too-
So,
It's too
as you
late.
know, I call you the Rich Little of the industry. And that, by the way, we just
Time,
dated ourselves right
timely
there.
reference.
We just
Timely,
aged
timely
ourselves.
reference.
You are
Yeah.
the Rich Little of the industry. So I either want a Paul
Yep.
Bellantone, I want a Terry Maguire.
Okay.
Uh, who's the other
Be
good one?
careful. Be
Oh,
careful. There's
oh,
some I can't do.
David Schneiderman. I want one of
Uh,
those three.
I'll go David Schneiderman because I did that in front of David last week. I will clean up the language a little bit. So, for those of you who don't know, Big D over at Something Inked, such a great guy, but he's a very distinctive voice, a very distinctive way of speaking, and I think it's the one I can channel the best. So, this would be him. Let's say he is calling you to ask for you to cover something for Something Inked. Michelle, what the hell's the problem here? I give you the information you need, and you've got to cover this because if you don't, what am I going to do? You're going to make me go to PPAI? You can't do this to me.
Honestly, you should be on the main stage at the Golden Nugget. This is all I'm saying. You should be working the room at the Tropicana.
Yeah, make sure to tip your waiters and waitresses, and the veal is fresh. Hey, before we go, big thanks to our good pals over at Warwick Publishing. They are the makers of
Love
magical
them.
merch for nearly 100 years and are proudly producing 99% of their products right here in the USA with over 25,000 SKUs. In packaging that turns heads, they will help you create full-on branded experiences that your clients will love. Don't believe me? Check them out. WarwickPublishing.com. You won't be sorry you did. Just like I'm not sorry I invited the lovely and talented Michele Bell. Thank you so much for doing this podcast, enduring a fire drill, enduring my camera issues this morning. It has been a complete shit show getting this together, but it's been one of my favorite podcasts to do, and I cannot thank you enough.
Thank you so much for having me, Bill. It was super fun.